You might want to take a moment to pause the video and read through the problem, and then hit play again once you've read through it and made sure that you've understood what the question is asking. So if we're looking at this here, we're looking at the starting temperature of Moscow, and that's at -4 degrees Celsius. And the strategy we're using here is using a number line. And so our starting temperature is -4 degrees Celsius. And then our temperature moves, it gets 2 degrees colder, or the temperature drops 2 degrees. So it moves from -4 degrees down to -6 degrees Celsius. And with New York, our starting temperature is -10 degrees, and our temperature increases by 3 degrees to -7 degrees Celsius. So that's one way we could do it, and that's using a number line. Another way, so to state that, at 8 a.m. Moscow's temperature is -6 degrees Celsius and New York's is -7 degrees Celsius. -6 is greater than -7, and we can write that using the notation, the greater than symbol. Now -6 is greater than 7 because it's further to the right on the number line. Alternatively, we could write it as -7 is less than -6. So we could use that sign there to say less than. And because it's a worded problem, we would answer that in a sentence. We would say Moscow has the highest 8 a.m. temperature of -6 degrees Celsius compared to New York, which is an 8 a.m. temperature of -7 degrees Celsius. Another strategy is by using the AEM, or the Algebra Experience Materials. So just a bit of a recap on these. The yellow tile represents +1 and the red tile represents -1. When we place the yellow and the red tile together, as you can see on the right, they form what we call a neutral pair, or they could also be called a zero set. It has a value of 0. They both cancel each other out. So when you see those together, a neutral pair or a zero set is worth 0. So when working through the problem, it's a good idea to have some zero sets or neutral pairs. As you can see here, we've got 5 sets of neutral pairs. Each of those is worth 0. So at the moment, we've got Moscow's starting temperature of -4, which we've got represented down below with the 4 red tiles on their own. So what happens is that the temperature reduces by 2 degrees Celsius. So we're subtracting 2 degrees Celsius. So we're subtracting 2 of the positives. And that leaves us with -6, as you can see with the 6 red tiles on their own. And again, showing us on the number line, what's happening here is when we're subtracting 2 of the positives, it goes from -4 to -6. Now we can write that as -4 subtract 2 of the positives, which we did. We subtracted 2 of the yellow tiles. And that should read -6, not 6. Okay, and for New York, again, we've set it up with some neutral pairs or zero sets. You can see on the left, we've got 4 sets of them. They're worth 0. And we've got New York's starting temperature of -10, which is represented by the 10 of the red tiles on their own. So what's happening is that New York's temperature increases by 3. So we're adding 3 of the positives, and we now have only 7 of those negatives, or 7 of those red tiles on their own. So another way of thinking is -3 add +3 equals -7. So when we added +3, we did that physically by adding 3 of the yellow tiles. Some other problems here. If we have -4 add -2, again, we have the zero sets even if we don't need to use them. They're always good to have just in case. And we're starting off with our -4, and then we're adding 2 of the negatives. So we need to bring in another 2 of the red tiles, which we can do here. So now you can see that we have 6 of the negative tiles. So -4 add -2 is -6. And again, we can show that on the number line. It goes from -4 to -6. And another problem, if we have 4 subtract -3, starting off with our neutral pairs again, even if we don't need them, we've got +4 and we're subtracting -3. So we need to take away 3 of the negatives, or take away 3 of the red tiles because they represent negatives. So we're subtracting 3 of those negatives. And that leaves us with 7 of the yellow tiles on their own. And remember, the yellow tile represents +1, so we have 7. So another way of looking at it is 4 subtract -3 is equal to 4 add +3. So when we subtract a negative, it is the same as adding a positive.